So today we are going to talk about spiritual principles for manifesting. Ha! How about that? Anybody felt frustrated when you've tried to manifest something in your life before? Yeah, I've seen some nods, of course. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not, for most of us. Now, we're going to talk about some of the principles, the spiritual principles behind this. We're not going to talk about the science behind it, because then we'll be here all day. And I really think you don't want to hear me going on and on about that, but I'm going to also really focus on the crucial steps that we're missing and why maybe sometimes it doesn't work, or we feel like it doesn't work. So, of course, when I first heard about manifesting back in the day, way back when, before I started practicing alternative or metaphysical principles or found any kind of a New Thought church, I thought it was woo-woo. Woo-woo magic. And I was a woman of science, you know, that sounded like fantasy to me. And I love science fiction, but I'm one of those hardcore science fiction people. You know, like Star Trek. You know, I mean, my God, I carried my flip phone. I used my dang flip phone until it died. After the smartphones came out, I could not get rid of my flip phone because I thought I was Captain Kirk. I always wanted to say, beat me up, Scotty. The only exception to the fantasy, the only exception was that I did love a fantasy called Star Wars. And I'm looking at my Star Wars buddies over here. Yeah, I know, I see. But of course then I discovered Phyllis, and I discovered, you know, Reverend Phyllis Sparks, and I discovered the Soul Esteem Center, and learned a lot about the principles that really go into why manifesting is a spiritual activity. How many people saw The Secret? The movie The Secret came out back in 2006, a lot of folks. Now that really brought the concept of manifesting and the law of attraction to this culture, the Western culture, for the most part. Those of us in the metaphysical world are already seeing it, but a lot of other folks had not. And Rhonda Burns told us in The Secret to visualize, practice visualization, to practice gratitude, to practice intentions, and to master our thoughts and feelings. Now I think that's one of our holdups. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Mastering our thoughts and feelings is pretty tough, isn't it? But when we get all of that down, that's when your thoughts become things. How many times have you heard that? Right? And she really simplified the process. Maybe simplified it a little too much, but at least she brought it to the forefront. We're going to explore a few more of the different, I guess, experts on manifesting. So let's go back a little bit farther. And who read Wayne Dyer's Manifest Your Destiny? I see hands, okay. And so that came out in 1997. And Wayne said, I think a lot of folks know who Wayne Dyer was, but he had actually 13 different steps for manifesting. I'll go through them quickly, but it was to believe that you are an infinite spiritual being having a spiritual experience. Ever heard that before? Okay, I think we got that one down here. To become the observer of your thoughts. Okay, meditating, you know, like Cassidy was really talking about a lot of this mindfulness and meditating. That's helping us become an observer of our thoughts. We practiced that already. And releasing your imagination from current limiting circumstances. That's one where we might have a little bit of trouble. We see something that we feel like we're lacking in, and we have a hard time detaching from that feeling of lack, but that's one that he says is important. See your wish as already accomplished. We've heard that one before. See it as already done. And believe in your own divine power. Believe in your own divine power. Yes. That's a tough one, but I think a lot of folks that are in this place and hearing this message are already either there or on their way there, right? We're working on it if we're not already there. And also remain independent of the good opinion of other people. Don't listen to all those other jerks when they tell you it's not going to work or that you can't do it. And then reconstruct your I ams. Reconstruct your I ams. I am not stupid. I am worthy. I can do it. And be patient and banish doubt. How many times are you mad because it did not show up right now? Because it did not show up right now. Number 11, phrase your intentions as given statements. Elena, how about that? Intentions of the intenders of the highest good. That's one of the things that group, how many folks participated in those intenders of the highest good? It's really important the way you phrase as it already happened. Your speech, your words have power. And I learned that personally from that group that I went with. When Elena was having them back at the Soul Esteem Center days, that's when I first really went on overdrive in manifesting. And then know that what you already have is enough. That needs gratitude, right? Having gratitude for what you have. All right, so that's Wayne's, that was Wayne's ideas. So, and none of it's new thought. It's old stuff, actually. We call it new thought because here in the West, it really wasn't talked about very much. Buddha said all that we are is a result of what we have thought. And Jesus told us about our limitless power to create when he said in John 14:12, I say to you, he who believes in me, meaning Christ consciousness, that Christ consciousness within. He who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. And greater works than these he will do because I go to my Father. So our Christ consciousness and going to our Father, God, divine mind, universal consciousness. And what is the other word we like to say? God is? Spirit. Spirit and the L word. Love. Love, yes. Love, love, love. Again, there goes back to the feeling state, that high energy state of love. Now, Ernest Holmes, author of Science of Mind, I think a lot of you are familiar and maybe have practiced a lot of those Science of Mind teachings, you know, the CSL work. He's got 10 basic principles for Science of Mind, spiritual principles. The two of them that I'm going to pull out that he talks about are our creative nature, our creative nature as humans. And he felt that it was our job to think clearly, This goes back to that control of our thoughts. To think clearly so we experience the full expression of the divine in our lives. And now the other one he talks about is the power of prayer, of affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer gives organization. He talks about the organization of your thoughts. It causes you to organize your thoughts. And that praying by knowing it is so, seeing it in our mind's eye, and knowing the qualities that we want, you know, that is putting all of those principles into action. Now Esther Hicks and Abraham, she channels Abraham. I think probably a lot of folks are familiar with Abraham. And Abraham reminds us that people create with our thoughts, attention, and frequency. And what is frequency? It's energy state. And in our human bodies, what is our energy state? It's what we're feeling in the moment. Are we sad? Low energy state. Are we happy and feeling love? High energy state. Well, she says, or Abraham says, desirable physical manifestations such as money, relationships, lifestyle success are byproducts of focusing on joy. Joy, that's another one of those high energy frequencies, high energy states. So now, power versus force. Book Power versus Force, another one that I think some of you probably, I see some nods. There's an author, David Hawkins, Power versus Force. That's a tough one to read now. I don't know, I found that hard to read, but it was very helpful. He tells us to make sure that we focus on how you feel, back to feel. I mean, repeated, feel. And it's because of that frequency stuff. He says, focus on how you feel about what you're trying to manifest, because our mind, the subconscious, does a reality check. The subconscious does a reality check that registers when things are not matching. And that is negative reinforcement. If the things that are not matching, if your subconscious says, okay, you want to manifest this, but you don't really feel like you can do it, if you don't believe it, it's like competing, and it's going to basically short circuit what you're trying to do. He says our subconscious needs truth. Truth, your truth, what you believe, what you feel is true. And fear, he says that fear is a disbelief. If you're manifesting out of fear, if you're trying, or you're working, not trying, what does Yoda say? There is no try. Do or not do. Fear is a disbelief that things will not turn out the way you want. Another contradiction. So if you're working to manifest and you're in a state of fear, again, short circuit time. Anger, negative low energy, short circuit time. Want, you're feeling the want, oh, I want this thing. Short circuit time. You're not having, when you're wanting, that means you're not in gratitude for what you've got. Got it? Okay. So focusing on how you feel when you manifest the situation that gives your mind truth is less dependent on external conditions. Okay, so again, back to how you're going to feel. Think about how you're going to feel when you manifest this XYZ thing, situation, etc. Because that way it's not dependent on what you're seeing, your external conditions in the moment. And last thing he says is that to create a new belief about yourself, basically, again, goes back to that, are you capable? Can you do this? I am successful at XYZ. I am successful at manifesting. I am successful at being a painter, at creating a loving relationship. Whatever it is that you're working on, you have to create that belief in yourself. And to do that, it has to start from an action. He talks about action. You have to have a behavior change. If that doesn't feel like you have to figure out how to change that within you by changing your behaviors. Either learning something or dealing with a past trauma, what the thing is that's blocking that. So you gotta get help sometimes, and that's okay. So, and you may have to identify and release those limiting beliefs. That might be the behavior change. Money is the root of all evil. We've heard that one before. Or we only deserve things if we struggle and work hard and sacrifice. Now, there's nothing wrong with struggle and working hard and sacrificing. But if you believe that's the only way, then, again, there you go. That's what's going to happen. Now, so David Hawkins is a fount of information. Something else that I have found is if you're in the flow, classically musicians talk about being in the flow when they're playing their music in the moment. Painters, writers, it just flowed through me. As a martial artist, I actually experienced at my highest, most trained up moments being in the flow and just being able, in a sparring situation, something took over. It was transcendental. I was able to react to somebody way higher than me in this sparring situation without even thinking or without even doing. Of course, I was practiced up pretty darn good, but that allowed me to just become one with the universe, and something took over and I won that dance. But getting in the flow helps supercharge manifesting, because again, it's actually higher energy. You're in a higher energy state. You feel transcended and it turns off doubt. There's a lot of science now behind getting in the flow. Of course, why would that be? Because they're using it, they're talking about it in the work world. So of course there's a lot of studies. There's something called the cognitive control model of work-related flow, CCMWF. But they say that getting in the flow or the zone, there's these authors, Stephen Kohler, Jamie Wheel, there's scientists, of course. It's described as a period of intensely focused peace. And they say that peace is a result of our prefrontal cortex, here we go, a little bit of science, our prefrontal cortex temporarily powering down and quieting our inner critic. And what is it our inner critic is telling us? You're stupid, you can't do that, you're not worthy. It's turning that off. And we had heard from these other metaphysical experts that you have to believe you can do it, didn't we? All right, another doctor, Neil Hall, a psychiatrist, says that a heightened state of flow is where action and awareness merge and performance goes through the roof. Now, of course, they're talking about work, but it also goes through the roof in manifesting. All right, so to tie it up here, the crucial manifesting steps that I believe that we tend to miss when we're working on manifesting is mastering our thoughts and feelings. And if we're here, in this place right here, right now, we're working on that by practicing meditation and practicing prayer. So you're already working on it, and you can always work harder. A spiritual practice of meditation, routine meditation and prayer can help you get to that place of mastering your thoughts and feelings, and or at least mastering them more often. We're not all 100%. And I liked habit 12 of Wayne Dyer's, choose your reality with love, the higher energy state. We talked about that a lot. And he says knowing, number 13 was knowing what you already have is enough. Back to gratitude, 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 gratitude. How many times are we not in a place of gratitude for what we've got? Because there's something that there's a pain that we have, or that we want more money, or we want, a better relationship, or et cetera, et cetera. We want healing that we don't see yet, something like that. Sometimes we just have to be okay with where we're at. And that's all there is to it. So the other thing that Esther had said about manifesting comes from that place of joy. And then David Hawkins doing that internal reality check, using our feelings, finding those contradictions that are blocking manifesting. So again, and often we're going to need help with removing those blocks. Sometimes we need some therapy if we've got something really deep-seated in there. Sometimes it's just, us finding them ourselves. It's possible too. Getting in the flow, we're going to talk. And then take inspired action, that action step, again, whether it's getting help or whether you put your vision out into the world, we visualized what it is, how we want to feel when this new thing is manifested, and we're going to take that inspired action that comes our way. You know how that happens. All of a sudden this door opens and you have this opportunity that you never thought you were going to get. And it's like, well, I can't do that. Well, you better do that. You should walk through that door. You asked for it. You're going to go figure out a way to do it. Take that inspired action. And the last one that I found personally was detachment in my own manifesting practice. I found that detachment was tremendous. So manifesting happens when we're able to focus our thoughts on an idea, an item, a belief, whatever it is we're working on, and be detached at the same time from how it comes, when it comes, and from who it comes. It's going to show up not how you expected it to show up. After watching The Secret, I'll never forget it, and after doing the Intenders of the Highest Good stuff, this was like 25 years ago, I remember all the journals from Intenders of the Highest Good meetings with Elena's group, and I remember moving. I packed up all my stuff in a box, and a couple years later, that box was put away somewhere. A couple years later, I opened that box. I pulled out those journals. I had manifested every one of the things in that journal. Everything from the place I was living to the tantric lover, to the money, to the, you know, but the thing is, you also have to be ready to move on from those things you've manifested. Because sometimes you get something new after that. Because that lover they had a lot of other things that I didn't want. Learn to manifest. And the house that I had manifested, I ended up moving up from later, kind of thing. And the job and the money that I had manifested, I moved up from that later too. So you got to be ready to move up from what you get. You know, it's this or better. God bless.